Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. Today we will look at the chapter which is titled India After Independence. So, as the name itself suggests, our focus in this chapter will be the social and political developments in India, especially after the Britishers left India and India gained independence from the colonial rule. So, here we will start with the topic 1, which is national and regional development since 1945. So, what all are the national and the regional developments happening in India since 1945 remains the focus of the topic 1. So, after independence, India faced many challenges. Some were national and others were regional. So, regional, as the name suggests, you know it is something which relates to the states or the provinces. So, both the problems India was facing at the time of independence, that is national problems and certain regional problems. And now we first look at the major important development post independence, that is partition and the refugee problem, and it was a national problem. So, partition of India in 1947 was the division of British India into two independent dominion states, India and Pakistan. With partition, the Indian state got divided into two separate states, that is India and Pakistan. Dominions were autonomous communities within the British Empire which were equal in status but had allegiance to the crown. So, the term dominion or dominion status meant that the states had equal status but they had to pay some allegiance or some kind of loyalty to the British crown. So, this is something which was granted to both India and Pakistan by the British government while they were leaving India. Both India and Pakistan were given dominion status, where both the states were free and equal, but they had to pay allegiance or they had to be loyal to the British crown. The dominion of India is today the Republic of India. So, from dominion status, India became a republic where it stopped paying allegiance or being loyal to the British crown and it became a autonomous sovereign country, that is a country which could decide for itself. The dominion of Pakistan is today the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So, the dominion of Pakistan also became Republic of Pakistan and the People's Republic of Bangladesh. So, we know post partition the area which was designated as Pakistan was then later on divided into two, that is Bangladesh and Pakistan. So, that is how we say that the dominion of Pakistan then later on became the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and the People's Republic of Bangladesh. And we see that the creation of Pakistan resulted in one of the largest cross-border migrations the world had ever seen. So, creation of Pakistan or the division of colonial India into two, that is Pakistan and India, resulted in displacing a lot of people from their motherland or their native place, and they were made refugees or they were displaced from their native land. There was mass exodus of Sikhs, Hindus from Pakistan into India and of Muslims from India to Pakistan. So, with the partition, this dispossession and displacement of common people led to mass exodus or migration or forceful movement of people from Pakistan, the newly made Pakistan. We saw that a large number of people who belonged to the Sikh and Hindu community migrated to free India, and from India a large number of people from the Muslim community migrated to the newly formed Pakistan. And in the chaos, chaos means confusion, in the chaos that followed, people fled, leaving all their possessions behind. Families were separated and thousands killed. So, as a result of this confusion which partition gave birth to, we see that there was a lot of confusion. People were running for their lives and they were dispossessed, and families were separated, and there was a lot of violence where thousands of people got killed. And in Delhi, we see that there were refugees or the dispossessed people everywhere, camping on any available piece of empty land, because these people were now homeless. That's why they are called refugees. They are homeless, they are displaced, and they are dispossessed. Whatever possession or materials they had, everything is now taken away. They are left on the road. So, wherever they found an empty piece of land, they settled there, especially in regions in and around Delhi. The responsibility on the government was enormous, and it was carried out effectively even when its coffers were empty. So, now when all these people were coming and begging for some kind of support, the newly formed Indian government had to take up this issue of the refugee problem and had to be responsible towards those people who were displaced. So, the government whose coffers were empty, coffers means the government treasury, from where financial assistance was to be provided for the people. Because of this change in rule from colony, from the British rule to Indian rule, we see that when Britishers left India, there were very less resources which was there for the newly made Indian government. So, with this lack of resources and very less money in the treasury, the newly formed Indian government had to look after the refugees and kind of be responsible to them. So, this was a big challenge which the newly formed Indian government faced. A Ministry of Rehabilitation was formed to handle the situation. So, rehabilitation, that is to solve the problems of the refugees, to meet their basic demands. A ministry which was called the Ministry of Rehabilitation was formed by the government, and the purpose was to handle this confusion and very problematic situation. Houses were built, and under the Ministry of Rehabilitation we see houses were built, loans were given, employment was found, training centers were established, schools were started, scholarships were given, and land was allotted for cultivation. So, these were different measures which the government undertook under the Ministry of Rehabilitation to solve the refugees problem. The second problem which the government faced after partition and the refugee problem was integration of princely states or integrating the princely states to the Indian Union. So, at the time of independence, there were more than 500 princely states in India. So, around or more than 500 princely states were there in India during the time of independence. So, princely states, you know, where we didn't have direct British rule, but the Indian princes were the authority, although the supreme authority was the Britishers, but still the Indian princes or the native kings had some power in these princely states. So, each was ruled by Maharaja or Nawab, divided on the basis of caste, language, faith and culture. So, these princely states were ruled by authorities who were called Maharaja or Nawabs, and it was divided on the basis of caste, language, faith and culture. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel played a major role in persuading most princely states to join Indian Union. So, Vallabhbhai Patel, we see, plays a significant role in convincing these princely states to join or get integrated with the Indian Union. Patel drafted an instrument of accession and appealed the princes to join the union. So, in order to request or appeal the princes to join the union, Patel had drafted instrument of accession. Gradually, all these states merged in the Indian Union except 3 states. So, with the instrument of accession, almost all the states were integrated into Indian Union, but there was an exception of 3 states which included Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir. So, these 3 states, Junagadh, Hyderabad and Kashmir, the integration of these states into the Indian Union was not an easy task. So, now we look at these 3 princely states and its specific characteristics. First is Junagadh, and Junagadh was a small seaport in Kathiawad, Saurashtra, which is in present day Gujarat. So, Junagadh is situated in the Kathiawad state, and the Nawab of Junagadh wanted to join Pakistan while the people of the state wanted to join India. So, the problem which Junagadh had in getting integrated to the Indian Union was the Nawab or the king of Junagadh wanted to join Pakistan, but the people there wanted to join the Indian Union. The Indian army was sent to take over the state. So, Nawab was not ready to get integrated to Indian Union. So, Indian army was to be sent to take over the state forcefully. The Nawab fled to Pakistan and Junagadh became part of India. So, when the Indian army was sent, Nawab had to flee to Pakistan, and that's how Junagadh became part of India and was integrated into the Indian Union. Second is the state of Hyderabad. So, Hyderabad enjoyed a special position as the largest princely state of India. So, its specific feature was it was the largest princely state of India, and Nizam, who was the king or the authority, declared Hyderabad to be independent. So, here the Nizam, what he does is he declares Hyderabad as an independent state right after independence. Indian leaders felt that the future of India as a unified nation would face grave danger if this was allowed to happen. But for the Indian political leaders, such a practice would lead to division of India and it would harm the unity of India. So, it was not something which they could permit or let happen. And they felt that future of India will be in danger if states were given the autonomy or the choice to stay independent and not to join the Indian Union. Indian troops were sent to Hyderabad. Here again Indian troops are sent to Hyderabad, and the government of India announced that it was not a war but police action, and Hyderabad was annexed to India. So similar to Junagadh, where the army had to intervene, here too Indian troops are sent, which the government calls not a war but a police action, and with it the Indian Union succeeds to annex and integrate Hyderabad to the Indian Union. And now we come to the case of Kashmir, and the case of Kashmir was unique. It had a different set of problems of its own. Kashmir had a Hindu ruler, Maharaja Hari Singh, ruling over a majority of Muslim people. So the specific characteristic of Kashmir was it had a Hindu ruler with majority of the population in the state being that of Muslims. Its territory touched both India and Pakistan. So it shared borders with both India and Pakistan. Hari Singh had secret hopes of remaining independent. So like the Nizam of Hyderabad, Hari Singh also had a desire or a secret aim to remain independent. At this time, Kashmir was invaded by Pathan tribes from Pakistan. So at this time, Kashmir is getting invaded or attacked by the Pathan tribes from Pakistan. And Hari Singh was left with no choice but to appeal or request India for help, and in return he agreed to join India. So there was an agreement between Hari Singh and the Indian government that if India offers him help, he would then be ready to join Indian Union. Both Pakistan and people of Kashmir felt cheated by this decision. So now the majority of those people belonging to the Muslim community and also Pakistan felt that this decision of Hari Singh was not acceptable and it was a cheating. The first Indo-Pakistan war broke out in 1947. So following this, a war broke out between India and Pakistan in the year 1947. Finally, Kashmir dispute was referred to the newly formed United Nations. So after the war, the problem over Kashmir and its integration was referred to the United Nations, and United Nations was asked to bring a solution to this problem. In 1948, United Nations team froze the battle line, which continues to be the line of control between India and Pakistan. So the UN drew a line of control between Pakistan and India, and this line dividing both these countries still remain as line of control between both these countries, both India and Pakistan. So from the immediate problems following partition, that is the refugee problem and the integration of the princely states, now we come to the demand for new states and efforts to fulfill regional aspiration of the people. So from now we look at the regional problems or the demands people from different regions in the Indian Union are making. So in 1920s, the Indian National Congress had promised that once the country got independence, each major linguistic group would have its own province. So in early 1920s itself, Indian National Congress had promised each major linguistic group, that is language group, a group who spoke a similar or one language, would have its own province or state. In other words, people speaking one particular language can have one state, can be united under one state. And in 1920s itself, INC had made this promise. But after gaining independence, the Congress went against creation of linguistic states because the need of the time was to have a strong and united nations. But we see that after 1947, Congress goes back on what it had promised, and it doesn't allow linguistic state formation on the basis of language, because Congress felt that it would then weaken the Indian Union, and the need of the hour was to have a strong and united nation. This created a lot of disappointment among many leaders. So, this was something which created a lot of disappointment among people and leaders, because it was like going back or not fulfilling a promise which Indian National Congress had once made. A veteran Gandhian named Sri Ramulu went on a hunger strike demanding the formation of Andhra Pradesh to protect the interest of Telugu speakers. So, a veteran, a very senior and old Gandhian leader whose name was Sri Ramulu went on a hunger strike demanding the formation of Andhra Pradesh to protect the interest of people who spoke the language of Telugu. On 15 December 1952, after 58th day of his fast, he died. This led to widespread chaos. So, on the 58th day of hunger strike, Sri Ramulu died, and his demand was formation of Andhra Pradesh for Telugu speaking people. And his death led to a lot of opposition from people and a lot of chaos or confusion. The central government created the new state of Andhra Pradesh on October 1st, 1953. So, following the chaos and confusions after Sri Ramulu's death, the government was forced to answer the request which was being made by Sri Ramulu, and on October 1, 1953, the new state of Andhra Pradesh was thus formed exclusively for people who spoke the language Telugu. So, seeing the example of Andhra Pradesh, other linguistic communities also demanded their own separate states. So, once when people saw that the demand of Telugu speaking people were met, the other states also started asking for provinces based on linguistic factors. A states reorganization committee was set up, which submitted its report in 1956 recommending the redrawing of district and provincial boundaries to form compact provinces of Assamese, Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada and Telugu speakers respectively. So, in order to meet the demand for linguistic states, a states reorganization committee was formed, and it submitted its report in the year 1956, and in the report they recommended that the districts and province boundaries should be redrawn or rearranged so that we'll have provinces on the basis of language like Assamese, Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Telugu and others. In 1960, the bilingual state of Bombay was divided into separate states of Maharashtra and Gujarat. So, bilingual, the state in which two languages were mainly used. Here it was the state of Bombay. It got divided into two separate states, that is Maharashtra and Gujarat. And in 1966, the state of Punjab was also divided into Punjab and Haryana. Earlier it was a united province, Punjab and Haryana, and in 1966 these two states also get divided. So now we look at the making of the constitution and the process, how it happens. Between December 1946 and November 1949, some 300 Indians had a series of meetings on the country's political future. So this is the time period in which the constitution gets formed. So mainly it's approximately around 3 years, that is 1946 to 49, where approximately around 300 Indians sat together, had a series of meetings and decided on what our constitution should be. The meetings of the Constituent Assembly were held in New Delhi. So, the body which comprised of members who would then design the constitution was called the Constituent Assembly, and its meetings were held in New Delhi, but the participants came from all over India and from different political parties. So, the important characteristic of the Constituent Assembly was it had members from all over India and also from different political parties, so that they could all present their opinion and give their point of view. These discussions resulted in the framing of Indian Constitution. So, as a result of this long discussions, the Constitution got framed, which came into effect on 26 January 1950. So, it is this day, 26 January 1950, that our Constitution came into force, and it was under the presidency of Dr. Rajendra Prasad that the Constitution came into force. And now we see the adoption of universal adult franchise, and it was one of the significant features of Indian Constitution. So, adult franchise meant whoever above the age of 18 years and whoever is an Indian citizen was now given the right to vote or select his or her representative. So, this was what was termed as universal adult franchise. Any adult above the age of 18 years who is a citizen of India is given the right to vote and elect his or her representative. All Indians above the age of 18 have the right to vote. So, age of 18, if you are above the age of 18 and an Indian citizen, you have the right to vote. This was irrespective of gender, class or education, and there was no discrimination on the basis of gender, class or education. This was a revolutionary step, as never before had Indians been allowed to choose their own leaders. So, it is only after the Constitution comes into force that Indians are given the right to choose their representative, and it was a revolutionary step, a great step, something which had never happened before, because it was for the first time that the Indians were given the right to choose whom their leaders will be. Till then they were under the rule of the foreign power or the Indian kings or princes. And following the universal adult franchise, the second feature of the constitution was that it guaranteed equality before the law, that is equal status for every individual before the law, and it was regardless of their caste or religious affiliation. So no matter which cultural background you belong to, no matter which religion you were following, everybody was given equality before law. Besides Muslims, India also had large populations of Sikhs and Christians. They were all minorities, minority religion, as well as many Parsis and Jains. There was Parsis, Jains along with Sikhs and Christians and Muslims, and they would all have the same right as Hindus, who were the majority religion. So no matter which religion you belong to, whether you belong to the majority religion or the minority religion, everybody had the right to be equal in front of law. And the third characteristic or the specific feature of constitution was special privileges were offered to the poorest and the most disadvantaged Indians. So some kind of special privilege or a special treatment is given to those people in the society who were the poorest and the most disadvantaged. Untouchability was abolished. The social evil or the evil practice of untouchability was abolished through the constitution. Hindu temples previously open only to higher caste were thrown open to all, including former untouchables. So now the temples were opened for all sections of the society, including the untouchables who were not allowed to enter these temples before. After a long debate, the Constituent Assembly also recommended that a certain percentage of seats in legislatures as well as jobs in government services be reserved for members of the lowest class. And after a lot of discussion and talk, it was decided that a certain percentage of seats in the legislature and jobs in the government service were to be reserved or kept aside for people belonging to the lowest castes, because these were the sections who were oppressed and silenced and treated cruelly for centuries. So now it was time to consider these people who were not given just treatment for a long time. So the Constituent Assembly decided that at least now they should be given some kind of special consideration so that their position in the society will improve with time. Adivasis and scheduled tribes were also given reservations in seats and jobs. Along with the untouchables and the lowest classes, we see that Adivasis and the scheduled tribes, who were also a section who were marginalized, who were not treated well in the society, are also now given reservation in seats and jobs so that their social status improves. So along with the treatment of people belonging to the lowest sections, Constituent Assembly spent many days discussing the powers of central government versus those of the state governments. So what all powers the central government will have and what powers the state government will. This was also discussed in the Constituent Assembly. The Constitution provides 3 lists of subjects. So in order to lay down the powers of the central and the state government, the Constitution provides 3 lists, and these lists include the union list, the state list and the concurrent list. So the union list includes subjects of national interest such as taxes, defense and foreign affairs, which would be the exclusive responsibility of the center. So these subjects will be under the central government, that is taxes, defense and foreign affairs. The central government had power and authority to take care of matters which was of national interest. And the state list included subjects like education, health, which would be taken care of principally by the states. So subjects like education and health came under the authority of the state government. And then there was this third list, which was concurrent list, which included subjects such as forest and agriculture, in which the center and the states would have joint responsibility. And here in the concurrent list, we had subjects such as forests and agriculture, and both center and state shared responsibility over these subjects. So now emerges the question of national language and the discussions around it. So this is also something which becomes a regional problem, and the language issue also erupts as something which the government has to now come to a decision on. In India, Sanskrit remained a common medium for many centuries. Under the British, English became a sort of lingua franca. So the word lingua franca means the language spoken by a set of people whose native language is not that particular language. So in India, English became the lingua franca because people coming from different backgrounds with different languages which are native to them, in order to communicate, they had to decide or fix one particular language which all the sections could understand. And in India, we saw or we know that it is English which becomes the medium of conversation between people who have other languages as their native language. So when a Hindi speaking person meets a person coming from Tamil Nadu with the native language which is Tamil, they will most probably prefer to speak in English because that is the only language which they have in common. So that's how English gets the status of lingua franca. But both of them were languages of educated people and not of the masses. So Sanskrit remained a common medium and English became a lingua franca. But the limitation of both these languages were, it was the language of the educated and people who were belonging to the higher sections of the society and not of the common people. After getting independence, India needed a common language. So once India became independent, an important question was, what will be our common language or the language of national importance? This may be regarded as the national language. So this common language could be called as the national language too. And the question was, which language should we then have as our national language? According to the policy, 14 regional languages were originally recognized as official languages by the Constitution of Free India. So when this question of national language came up, we see that around 14 regional languages or native languages were chosen as official languages by the constitution. So, constitution did not decide on one language as the national language. Instead, 14 languages spoken in different parts of the country was given the status of official language by Constitution of India. And these languages were Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kashmiri, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Marathi, Kannada, Malayalam, Oriya, Tamil, Telugu and Urdu. And these languages included all these regional or native language. And later on, many other languages were added to the list of official languages of India. So, this list was not something which was closed. Instead, at a later stage also, many other regional languages were added on to this list of official languages, and today we have around 22 languages as our official language. And the significance of Hindi, that is standard Khadi Boli, which is written in Devanagari script, is the official language of Government of India or the central government. So, this is what makes Hindi significant, and there are a variety of ways in which Hindi is written and spoken, variety of dialects, but the Hindi written in Devanagari script is given the status of the official language of the Government of India or the central government. In states, we saw there are around 22 official languages, and with the Government of India, it is Hindi which is given the status of the official language. Today, many states like Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh have been accepted Hindi as the official language. So, these different states in the northern part of India have also accepted Hindi as their official language. And Hindi is also developed as a great literary language. Along with the official language status, Hindi also has developed as a great literary language in the passing years. And the Constitution of India had ordained or given Hindi the status of the common language for all India. English, which had so far been used as the lingua franca of India, was to be completely replaced after 1965 by Hindi as the official language. So, while Constitution was getting framed and right after independence, it was decided that English, which was till then the lingua franca of India, was to be completely replaced by Hindi, at least by 1965. However, when such a request was made, we see that the southern states, that is states in the southern part of India, opposed it because it felt it was imposing Hindi on non-Hindi speaking people. So, there was a lot of opposition when this decision was made that after 1965, Hindi will replace English as the official language, and facing this opposition, what we see is English continued as an additional official language, because the non-Hindi speaking people opposed this forceful imposition of one particular language on them, and as a result English had to continue even after 1965 as one of the official languages, along with Hindi and also many other regional languages.